Yo, what's good? Today I'm going to be doing Weezer worst to best. This list will not be including deluxe editions or compilations because compilations aren't real albums and deluxe editions shouldn't count because it has material that wasn't on the original album. Anyway, let's jump into it. Gratitude is by far their worst album. It is garbage pop that was just Weezer's attempt to be hip and cool in the late 2000s. And their best song on the album is their opening track, If You're Wondering If I Want You To, I Want You To. Even though it's still bad, it's probably the best one on there. It's the most listenable one. The worst one on there is by far Can't Stop Partying, because it featured Lil Wayne, and it's the biggest shift from Weezer's formula ever. Other downsides on the album are everything else on this uninspired piece of garbage. The next album on it is Pacific Daydream, the 2017 album, which came right after the White Album, and it was like they were good and then they turned really bad again. The best song on this album is probably QB Blitz, even though it's still bad, it's kind of listenable. The worst song on it is Feels Like Summer, because it's it's like the biggest attempt to be like a summer pop song, and it's just really bad. Other downsides are also the rest of that piece of trash. The next album on the list is Make Believe, which is a way worse version of the Green Album. Yeah, it was the biggest shift from their original formula, and it's not good. The best song on this album is probably Perfect Situation, which is still not that good of a song. And the worst song is Beverly Hills, because it's a perfect example of Weezer's turning point for the worst. Other downsides are basically just the rest of this album, because it's just more painful mainstream pop rock that completely alienates the original audience.
Number 10.
The next album on here is the Black Album, which is their most recent album that came out on March 1st, and it's just, why? I don't get it. Like, they were so close with the White Album, and then they turned bad again, the Pacific Daydream, and then went to the Black Album, and which was their chance to be good again, and they made it bad. The best song on this was High as a Kite, which is actually a pretty good song. I mean, the piano was great. The song's also like kind of like pretty good. Like, I like it. I'm enjoyable to listen to. The worst song on the album is probably California Snow, because it's not even meant to be on the album. It was a single for a movie, and it was already a bad song, and like it's just not good. Other downsides are everything else on the album besides Can't Knock the Hustle, because everything else is just uninspired, like kind of pop, but like kind of like one song he raps, and one song he just swears for no reason. It's just a bad album. The next album on this is the Teal album, which is not even really an album, it's a cover album, but I'm still including it for some reason. But yeah, the best song on this is Africa, because it's pretty faithful to the original one. But the worst song on the album is probably Billie Jean, because it's just so cringy to hear Rivers trying to sound like Michael Jackson. The next album is the Red Album, which is actually pretty good. It's a pretty decent album. The best song on this album is by far Pork and Beans. That's an actually good song. The worst song is Cold Dark World, which just doesn't sound like anything. It's just so bad. Other downsides is this album is just whack. This album's really whack, I'm not gonna lie.
I am not enjoying this Weezer song. I think I will change the track.
The next album is the Green Album. It was really hated on because they made Pinkerton, which everyone liked. I mean, they hated it at release, but then everyone started to like it. and then there was a hiatus, and then they released the Green album, which is a complete shift from Pinkerton. It's still a decent album. It's just not like, it doesn't sound like Weezer. Like doesn't sound like, it's not an easy progression. You know what I mean? But best song is Island in the Sun, which is actually a pretty good song. The worst song is Hash Pipe by far. It's like it's an attempt to sound like more edgy, but it's just not good. Other highlights are probably just Oh Girlfriend's okay closer. The next album is Hurley, which is actually a pretty underrated and good album. The best song on this album is probably Unspoken. It's a pretty good song, and the worst song is probably Time Flies, because it's like an attempt to sound like Pinkerton, but instead of sounding like lo-fi, it sounds bad. It sounds like it was recorded bad. You can barely hear what's happening. It sounds like it's like a rattly mic. Or other highlights are probably Ruling Me, Runaway, and Memories. The next album on the list is Everything Will Be Alright in the End, which is it was the first album where Weezer actually started to get good reviews again. The first album where people were actually pleased when it came out. The best song on the album is Back to the Shack, which is like a pretty self-aware song, and it's easy to listen to. It's pretty good. Like the worst song is Lonely Girl, which is a boring song and it sounds like it would fit in on like Green album. Like Green album's okay. Like it's just a mediocre song. Other highlights are Ain't Got Nobody, which is a pretty good opener, and Eulogy for a Rock Band, which is also a pretty good self-aware song.
With the glass ceiling broken, all the oppressed groups shall prosper, especially the most oppressed group of all.
Fans of Maladroit. Next album on the list is Maladroit, which it would be a better progression from Pinkerton than Green album was. But it was a really good album. The best song on the album is probably Slob, which is I feel like it would kind of fit on Pinkerton, but not really. But the worst song on it is probably Fall Together. Yeah, but other highlights are Death and Destruction, which would have been a better album closer than December, and Slave, which is just an all-around enjoyable song, and a close second to Slob. The next album on this list is White Album, which is Weezer's. Like a lot of fans returned for this album. Like some people it's Too Little Too Late, but it was everyone loved it when it came out. The best song on the album is King of the World, which is like a song about his wife, and the worst song is Jacked Up, because it sounds like it would fit in on a Pacific Daydream. But other highlights are California Kids is a pretty good opener to the album. Do You Want to Get High and Endless Bummer is a great finisher that comes across as a shorter, less impressive Only in Dreams, but is still great. Second to best is Pinkerton, which is to me is a 10 out of 10 album, but I prefer Blue Album. But the best song on this album is The Good Life, which is about him breaking his leg when he was writing the song, and it's a pretty good song. The worst song is Get You. Like to me it just sounds the worst. I mean, it's still a great song, it just sounds the worst to me. Other highlights are everything else, and I wish I included the deluxe edition just for this album. Weezer's best album is their first album that was released in 1994, self-titled Weezer, but is also known as the Blue Album. The best song on this album is the song Sadie So. The worst song on the album is the song Holiday, which is the most boring song on the album, but it's still a great song. and the rest of the album is peak Weezer. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you agreed with my opinions, hit a like. If you didn't, leave a comment on what you think the worst best should be, and bye.